Let's go to this one, man. We're about to put some fire in the hole. Okay, guys. Bernie Sanders. Will Bernie Sanders be starting a new third party? People are saying it's possible. Bernie's talking that type of talk that seems revolutionary. But what will he do? Is it possible? Is it feasible? What say you? Well, here goes a clip. Breaking points, we're discussing
in his critique of the Democrats and how they abandon working class voters. And he just recently sent out a campaign email that was not one of these normal, just like boilerplate fundraising pitches. This was clearly coming directly from him and continued that critique of the Democratic Party and also opened up some interesting possibilities for what Senator Sanders may be doing with his time in the future. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. I'm going to read this in full, guys, so just bear with me so you get the full sense of it. He says, I won't do it. I won't do it in the Bernie voice. Dear Brent, tough times.
Not bad.
The American people understand that our economic and political systems are rigged. They know that the very rich get much richer while almost everyone else becomes poor. They know that we are moving rapidly into an oligarchic form of society. The Democrats ran a campaign protecting the status quo and tinkering around the edges. Trump and the Republicans campaigned on change and on smashing the existing order. Not surprisingly, the Republicans won. Unfortunately, the, quote, change that Republicans will bring about will make a bad situation worse and a society of gross inequality even more unequal, more unjust, and more bigoted. Will the Democratic leadership learn the lessons of their defeat and create a party that stands with the working class and is prepared to take on the enormously powerful special interests that dominate our economy, our media, and our political life? Highly unlikely. They are much too wedded to the billionaires and corporate interests that fund their campaigns. Given that reality, where do we go from here? That is a very serious question that needs a lot of discussion in the coming weeks and months. How do we expand our efforts to build a multiracial, multi-generational working class movement? How do we create a 50-state movement, not politics based on the Electoral College and battleground states? How do we deal with Citizens United and the ability of billionaires to buy elections? How do we recruit more working class candidates for office at levels of government? Should we be supporting independent candidates who are prepared to take on both parties? How do we better support union organizing? How do we put together listening sessions around the country that intentionally seek input from people who did not vote for Democrats in the last election? How do we best use social media to build our movement and combat the lies and disinformation coming from the billionaire class and right-wing media? How do we build sustainable and long-term issue-based organizing structures that live beyond individual campaigns? These are some of the political questions that together we need to address, and it is absolutely critical that you make your voice heard during this process, not me, us. That is the only way forward. In solidarity, Bernie Sanders. So obviously, Emily, this caught a lot of attention because it is, you know, very critical of the Democratic Party. Says, like, are they going to get their act together? Probably not going to happen.
Right.
So where do we go from here? And, you know, one of the things he floats is, hey, do we support candidates? He doesn't name check Dan Osborne. We have to think that that's somewhere in mind, who ran as an independent, but as a populist, and came very close to winning in a Senate seat in Nebraska. How do we get more working class people in? And the theory, you know, the possibility here of a third party movement is also sort of overtly floated. So quite noteworthy coming from someone who still holds so much sway and so much influence.
Well, and what he is saying is what we heard the voters say in Griffin's segment, which is the big theme to take away from that is people voted for change. They voted for change. They voted for change. And you don't tell people that you are a change agent effectively if you are Kamala Harris and you are defending the Biden administration's policies. Now we can have a debate about whether Donald Trump is actually going to change Washington, but he convinces people that he is. That is his overarching message, that he is bringing fundamental change, not, as Bernie put it, tweaking around the edges or tinkering around the edges with different policies. It's not enough to talk about a child tax credit. You have to talk about why the system has created an environment where you need a child tax credit, where you need the government saying, oh, here, take a little bit more of your own damn money. Have a little bit more of it back for childcare. Have a little bit more of it back to pay for your babies. Like, that is the problem with the Democratic Party right now, is just assuming that's enough.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And, I can harp on this, but I think Bernie is a model, a very unique model in American politics, not in global politics, but in American politics in particular, where I would love to know what those same ladies would say if we asked them, like, what do you think about Bernie Sanders? Because I think even though he's stylistically very different from Trump, very different than AOC, also though a New York character.
Yes.
Interesting parallel there. But, that people had that same sense of him. This is a fighter. This is someone who is focused on me and my life and is going to go to war against the forces that are arrayed against me and my family and are making life more difficult than they should be for me and for my kids to be able to find success. I mean, the immediate question that this raises is, okay, Bernie Sanders, 83 years old, like, what does this mean? What is he planning? And, people have floated like, is he going to launch a third party? Is that what this is leading to? I think that's probably very unlikely, just given, Bernie has been in politics for longer than either one of us has been alive by decades, right? And he knows that in the realities of the American system, like there's a reason that he was able to run as an independent, but caucuses with Democrats and ultimately ran as a Democrat in the Democratic Party, because there are just so many barriers to an independent or third party movement, especially in the post Ross Perot era, being able to find any sort of significant success. I mean, if anyone could make it happen, it would be Bernie Sanders, because he still does have that, that base and that affection and that media and star power, et cetera, to command. I personally think it's unlikely that at this point in his life, he's going to go in that direction, but I am curious to see what he has in mind for his next act. I can tell you, I saw him speak last week, week before? I can't remember. Anyway, I saw him speak recently, and he's still got it. Let me tell you, there is no like mental decline there going on. He is 83 years old, but mentally he is still extremely sharp and extremely powerful. So this could be a really interesting development here.
Okay. All right, we back. I usually don't let clips play all the way, but I wanted that one to play all the way. Somebody hit me up on the comment section and were like, Timberlake, if you should be covering Bernie's third party idea. Only hacks are not covering it. And the grifters. I wasn't going to cover it. But you know what? You're right, I am going to cover it. This one's for you, son. Good job. I'm not going to cover it just the way you think I'm going to cover it, though, dumbass. Okay, first of all, there are a couple things I saw in this op-ed. I mean, it is whatever this was. This press release, this communique, this document that Bernie Sanders released to his people, released from his organization or whatever, they were troubling to me. And it to me, it didn't seem positive. Okay, so it seemed to me like he was more or less campaigning. Yeah, I don't know why he's campaigning. Campaigning for what? What's he campaigning about? What is he trying to do? Why wouldn't he just say it? You know how short an actual, manifesto could be at this point for Bernie Sanders? All right, we're starting a party. Gear up, folks. Let's go. The end. More news coming. That'd have been it. To clear all the decks of all the ideas of people speculating about what's happening. That's all he had to do. He didn't do that because he's doing what he always does. Yapping and yapping and chipping and tapping at the mouth. Playing on your emotions, playing on these things. He's a politician, Goofy. He's been doing this his whole career. Talking to get talk, but when it's time to put up and shut up and stay up, he does it. And I don't want to hear, man. I don't want to hear the shit about, the evil Democratic Party. Yeah, I bought that the first time. I halfway bought it the second time. Then when he dumped on black people, didn't know what reparations was. He didn't even have the heart to say, hey, I don't support it. Instead, he acts like he doesn't understand what we're even talking about. That, to me, was a bridge way too far. Worse than that, he'd already betrayed me when he campaigned for Hillary. Then he betrayed everybody again by campaigning for Joe Biden. What else needs to happen for people to realize that Bernie was never who Bernie tried to pretend to be? Guy has some policies that he believes in, or I guess, that are important to him. Fine. But if Bernie really wanted to start a third party, wouldn't he have started it after he got robbed the first time? Or maybe he would have started it after he got robbed the second time. You mean to tell me he's going to wait again for Trump to get him back in office, for him to start? Or maybe it's just a nice, slick way to keep goofies like you stuck around the Democratic Party for a moment. Yeah, he ain't going to start a third party. Just the same way he wouldn't, the same reason I agree with Crystal Ball. He's not going to start a third party. If he's going to start one, he would have already started one. He's just doing the same old thing he likes to do, is come in and say the most obvious shit. Hey, everything's corrupt. Hey, where's the money? Hey, we need this. Hey, the top 1%. Hey, the millionaires and the billionaires. And then, as everyone knows, the stick. But when it comes down to it, what's he really willing to? What is he really willing to risk? Nothing. And that's what I got to say about all these people. Another thing that was a big red flag. And it was one of the commentators. And this is the reason why I cannot rock with these people. Hey, man, a long time ago, man, I was a different guy. Thank you, Crystal, for bringing me on your show. Breaking Points, you and Sagar's show. But now it's just, no one's going back to the dumb. I can't go back to being dumb. I can't go back to not knowing. I know too much to unknow what I now know. And when you say stuff like, oh, well, if, the Democrats lost because they were defending Kamala, Kamala Harris defended Joe Biden policies. No! She betrayed all idea of her ethics. It wasn't just that she defended Joe Biden's policies. She helped enact them. She embodied them. Some of that legislation never would have got done without her. Okay? So, no, you don't get to say, oh, well, how were they going to win? They got her defending. She's a part of it. She's a part of the administration. The problem with you guys is that you're still stuck on the Democratic Party. You're still stuck operating with the Democratic Party. And I get it. What would you do politically? How would you get money? How would you get money if you didn't? So I understand your motivation, but that doesn't mean I don't get to call you out, and I don't have to agree with the nonsense. Then what really sealed the deal of this being a bunch of bogus nonsense that people are just saying for viewership and for friends? So we want to talk about grifting. It's a grift to pretend this is real. It's a grift for you to pretend that this is plausible with Bernie at the helm. Bernie is the institutional dog. He's a man of institution of the Democratic Party. He is of that. He ain't going to grow no damn new stripes. He got polka dots and he's keeping them. For you to say AOC's a fighter like AOC, what? Have we been living on the same planet the last couple of years? She's a hack. And so is he. The actions are what matters. And when it comes down to actions, it's either inaction or wrong action and a bunch of word salad when being questioned. And then coming out and saying the obvious things that everyone else is saying because the wind's blowing that way don't matter, does it? Nah, man, the courageous stand up when things are against them. The courageous, the leaders, they stand up regardless to how the ball's bouncing. That's why they call leaders. And for you to put Bernie and AOC, you just killed it for me, because that's exactly the wrong idea. Yes, I do believe we need more parties. I support new parties, more parties, but you know what? Do that shit without me. And I think I speak for a lot of us. I don't trust him. I don't believe in him. I don't think he has what it takes to go the distance. I don't believe that he will stick to it. This is all words. It ain't gonna work this time. You can fool some people some of the time, but you ain't fooling me again. I'm done with that. And I think most people with reasonable sense would say, all right, F you, show me. Go do it, then we'll see. Talk to me after you did it. Bernie would not be the person. For you to say Bernie would be the person to start a third party, he'd be the absolute wrong person to start a third party. We don't need you to be known. You'll become known by what you do. You don't have to be a known person in the Senate for 40 years like Bernie Sanders to get respect, to be able to start something. All you got to do is want to do it. All you got to do is have the guts to do it, have the courage to do it, have the stamina, the belief to do it. You don't need a guy who wouldn't do it, who wouldn't stand up for his own self. How are you not going to stand up for, if you baseball bat me, if you shellac me, if you shiv me in the shower, and I see you in the yard, it's on. He got shivved twice, and he still works there. Now, you two young ladies may be from the different side of the tracks. But you have tracks in your towns, right? Stop shoveling a pile of shit to the people and feeding it to them. You know better.